What is a man? A miserable pile of secrets. Alright, so, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having a great day. Alright guys, so, I've been thinking about this what if. Now, if you don't know who this is alright, so, here's what I'm going to do. If you have not seen it or played it, then you need to watch Castlevania, the anime series that's on Netflix. If you have Netflix. If you don't, pretty sure you can just go on some kind of anime website where they have all the episodes posted. They're on season 3, and season 4 is about to come out. I don't know when, but it will be coming out soon. Now, so you need to play the Castlevania games, the original timeline, and the Lord of Shadows timeline. So I'm combining both the Dracula from the original timeline, of the Castlevania games, and the Lord of Shadows timeline, Dracula, and combine them together along with the anime version of Dracula from Castlevania. Alright, so I was thinking, which character would go great with Dracula from the Castlevania series? And I started thinking, well, Eren Jaeger, he's a good candidate. Then I started thinking, well, Naruto is a good candidate. Natsu, Dragnail, he'll be a good candidate. Asta be a good candidate. Belle could be a good candidate. And then I started thinking, well, this character could literally go with basically any character basically any fighting character. So, like, I started thinking, well, except for Goku, so that wouldn't really make sense. Like, it could go great with Guts from Berserk. And yes, guys, I am going to be doing me a Berserk what if. So, get ready. Oh, hold on. Sorry about that, guys. I don't want to stop my video before I even get started on it. So I started thinking, I'm just going to choose a random candidate. So I put the character from the anime. So I did Attack on Titan, Eren Jaeger, Naruto, Fairy Tail, Natsu, Dragnail, so on and so forth. And I basically shook it up, closed my eyes, put my hand in a hat, and I drew the slip of paper, and I got Eren Jaeger. So here, and I am going to continue this series because, well, one, I like Castlevania. Like, besides Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, the Naruto, and the Dragon Ball Z franchise, I grew up on Castlevania. Castlevania is freaking awesome. Like, it's probably one of the funnest games I've ever played, and I guess you could say it was one of the games that actually got me into gaming. So, yeah. So, kind of like paying a little bit of a tribute to what got me into video games. Really, because Castlevania was one of the first few games that I played, and it kept on reinforcing me to play more video games. So, yeah, Castlevania played a big part in that. The main games that really enforced me to play video games was obviously Final Fantasy, Dragon Ball, Naruto, and of course, Castlevania. So, I remember playing Castlevania Lament of Innocence. That was a fun game. That was probably... Now, I didn't play the first... Well, chronologically speaking, this technically was the first game. Speaking in the timeline of the series, chronologically, that was the first game. So technically, I didn't play out of order, even though I did, but at the same time... Now, if I was playing them in the years that was released, yeah, I skipped at it. But other than that, I played, I had fun, and I enjoyed it immensely. And then I started playing, and then I was like, whoa. And then, of course, when they made Lords of Shadows, I was super hyped, and because, well, one, because it was been a while since they made any Castlevania games, but when they made Castlevania Lords of Shadows, then Castlevania 2, or Castlevania Lords of Shadows 2, I was extremely hyped. And, and of course, I liked it. So, I liked all the Castlevania games ever made. So, every single Castlevania game that they've ever made, I loved every single one of them. I played them all, and I liked every single one of them. I loved it. So, and it was just very, very fun. So, of course, again, that kind of enforced... Yeah, most of the games I played have a lot of... They mainly all came from Japan. So, yeah, sorry, America Games. You guys didn't get to me in time. Of course, why not? And then, of course, after that, after Castlevania, that's when I started playing the Persona series. Or however you prefer the original name, Shin Megami Tensei, or however you prefer it. Or then I started playing the Pokemon games, love those, still playing them to this day. And I currently have not beaten Sword or Shield, so therefore, yeah. Then, let's see, what else? The Dot Hack GU games, very fun. Or, well, just the entire Dot Hack series in general. I liked it. Then, of course, the Assassin's Creed games, which was the first American game that actually got me sold. And yes, I did pre-order Valhalla. Wait, why am I telling you guys? Alright, well, oh yeah, I'll back to Castlevania. I've already wasted 8 minutes of this video explaining why I got into video games and stuff like that. But before I get into this what if, leave a comment down below of which video game series got you started into video games. I'd like to hear your what got you into video games, regardless whether it be, heck, Pac-Man, Galaga, whatever. Whatever game got you into video games. I don't care. Put it down in the comment section down below. So yeah, put in the comment section down below, put what video game got you into video games. But without further ado, let's get started with what if Eren Jaeger was Dracula from the Castlevania series. I probably have to put that in the title, I don't know. Episode 1. What is a man but a miserable pile of secrets? Alright, so how I will have to do this in order for this story to make sense. Okay, so I'm obviously going to be taking the character build from Lords of Shadow. And of course, his name will be, at first, it'll be Gabriel Belmont. Now, remember guys, I'm combining both the original timeline and the Lords of Shadows timeline together. I'm combining both of them together. So I'm going to be taking some things here and then some things here from, and then basically I'll keep on going until, well, basically till I reach the end of the series. So, yeah. Alright, so, of course, now you guys may be wondering, okay, why Gabriel Belmont? Because I said so. Now, obviously, Gabriel Belmont, obviously being Dracula. Now, if you guys don't know Dracula's powers and abilities, he's very overpowered, okay? So, now how I will make him Dracula is the same way in the original timeline. So, if you don't know how Dracula became Dracula in the original timeline, I highly recommend that you... Let's see, which... oh yeah, Lament of Innocence. That's the game where you see Dracula become, well, Dracula. And in the original timeline, not the Lords of Shadows timeline, because the Lord of Shadows timeline is a little bit different of how he... Well, not really that different, but a few tweaks here and there. So, I will explain his powers and abilities as we continue going down the line, as we go further down into the story. So, about, I'm going to say 14th century. Yeah, 14th century. I think that will be a good timeline. Hold on, guys. Let me just go see in what timeline does Castlevania actually take place in. I think it takes place in the 14th century. I'm not completely... It's been a while since I played all the other Castlevania games. Like, because all those Castlevania games are, like, on my PlayStation 2. And you know how long it's been since I last played my PlayStation 2? 3 years, I think. I don't know. Like, no, not 3 years. It's been a long time since I last played my PlayStation 2. Holy crap. Shoot, I probably want to play my PlayStation 2 again, guys. Just play some of my old PlayStation 2 games. Huh. Oh, well, but anyway, I'll be right back, guys. Hold on. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Let's just say this. I went down to go eat. Turns out I had to go somewhere else, and it took like a really long time. So, right now it is currently 9:55. So, but don't worry, I'm going to get through this. Okay, I think I left off on... oh yeah, explaining, how Gabriel Belmont, how's he going to be Eren Jaeger. Alright, so basically, Eren Jaeger, right? His real name is not Eren Jaeger. It's Gabriel Belmont. Of course, Gabriel Belmont will later become Vlad Dracula Tepish. Or just Dracula, however you prefer it. Now, so, how the story will go is basically Gabriel makes a deal after discovering that he killed his wife, Marie. It drew him, and it just drove him insane. He couldn't stand not being with his wife. So he, instead of basically turning to God, before you guys say it, no, not Satan. He turned to God's polar opposite, chaos. If God is the embodiment of order, then Gabriel, or Dracula, will become the embodiment of chaos. So he makes a deal with the chaos dimension, or the chaos realm, saying that, hey, if you dwell in me and make me the embodiment of chaos, I will represent you, and you give me all the powers over chaos and evil and all that. Now, Satan, he does exist, considering I am combining both Lords of Shadow timeline along with the original timeline, and of course I am sort of kind of adding the anime to So anyway, what this means, of course, it obviously succeeds, and Gabriel becomes Dracula. He becomes the embodiment of chaos. He has the powers. He draws his powers from the chaos dimension, or the chaos realm. And if I were to list all of his powers, we would be here for days. And when I mean for days, I mean literally. Because he has a lot of abilities, considering I'm combining both the original timeline and the Lords of Shadow timeline. So, obviously, now I will be telling this story from multiple perspectives. I will be telling this from the perspective of Dracula. Then I will be talking from the perspective of Alucard, which is the son of Dracula. And then I'll be talking from the perspective of Death. Then the perspective of Simon Belmont. And, of course, later down the road, I will be talking from other people's perspectives. So, but mainly, of course, I will be mainly focusing on Dracula, considering he is the main character of the story. So, in Wallachia, or Wallachia, however you pronounce it, I just call it Wallachia because, well, that's how I was taught, and that's how I was told it was pronounced. So, Wallachia, I don't know how it's actually pronounced. People say Wallachia, and others just say Wallachia. I just say Wallachia. Now, of course, since he became Dracula, he also gets some new digs. And when I mean, he basically gets a castle. Castlevania. The name of the castle is, of course, Castlevania. So, yeah. If you're wondering what it looks like, hold on. I will bring it to you in a second. Hold on. Here it is. This is what his castle looks like. Now, Castlevania is actually pretty big. So, kind of considering, you got to understand, it's actually way bigger. Like if you've ever played the game, it's way bigger. Trust me. Like the outside is like, I mean, it's not deceptive, but yeah. But anyway, I'm obviously basing it off of the Castlevania from Lords of Shadows 2. Because it on the outside it looks actually big, but when you get inside it's actually way bigger. So yeah. Now, of course, since Castlevania is considered his domain. Now, if you guys are wondering, wherever his castle is, wherever Castlevania is, he can cast like an eternal darkness or eternal night. He can basically change and manipulate the weather. Well, not just where his castle is, but wherever he goes, he can control and manipulate the weather, it seems. So, yeah. So, let's see. Obviously, let's see. I said he was raised and trained by the Brotherhood of Light, but then, of course, after the events, I did say all that. Okay, yeah, I said all that. So, if you guys are wondering, alright, so what are his weaknesses? You would think, oh, the weaknesses of a normal vampire. No, because this Dracula from both timelines, and of course in the anime, is different from other vampires, obviously. So, divine relics have no effect on him. Sunlight does not have effect on him. Really, The only thing that has an effect on him, well, it was speculated that it could kill him, but they don't know. But okay, let's just say if it was able to kill him. The vampire killer, or the Morning Star as it's called. If hold on, let me see if I can't bring up a picture of the what it looks like. Hold on. All right, so here is the vampire killer, or the Morning Star as it's called. This is when the chain is not out, but this is what it looks like when the chain does come out and they swing. So obviously he had the vampire killer before. Obviously he had the vampire killer when he became Dracula. So obviously, not wanting it to be used against him, obviously he would keep it by his side. So, and not only that, considering how powerful it is, I'm pretty sure the vampire killer is going to stay exactly right where it was at. So yeah. Now, if you're wondering, yes, it is broken off at the bottom. And of course, but I will get into that later when I get into Alucard's story. So, yeah. And I'm also doing the same thing for Alucard as I am doing for Dracula. So, yeah. Hold on. But yeah, so obviously he's obviously going to keep that by his side. Now obviously it's broken off at the end, like I said, but I will tell you guys that later. Most likely in the next episode, when I'm probably explaining more about Alucard. Alright, so now his wife's name, because he remarried, is actually no. Actually I am going to actually be taking it from the Lord of Shadows, how they did it, because I actually liked how they did it a little bit. It actually kind of makes a little bit more sense. And not only that, I like their design a little bit better than the original timeline. So, yeah. So, obviously, but before I dive into that, I will, again, I'm saving that for the next episode when I, so if you guys are wondering what the name of this episode, it's called, What If Eren Was Dracula from Castlevania? Episode 1, Dracula. Then the next episode will be What If Eren Jaeger Was Dracula from Castlevania? Episode 2, it will be called Alucard. And then that's when I'll get... Mainly, I am doing in these first few episodes, I'm mainly explaining the character's background and basically giving their backstory, their origins and stuff. So, but anyway... Obviously, after becoming Dracula. Now, remember, this is still in the world of Attack on Titan, so let's just say a few thousand years have gone by now. So, obviously, the Brotherhood of Light is all over the world, including within the walls of Eldia. So, obviously, they are a hidden organization. Now, Dracula, he's basically been cooped up in Castlevania. Of course, there have been multiple crusades against him. But anyway, we will now turn to Dracula's throne room. There's a siege attack. Oh, sorry. There's a siege attack. A crusade. Crusade/siege attack on Castlevania, Dracula's home. We will automatically cut to a scene of Dracula. Hold on. We would automatically cut to what you see right here. Dracula sitting on his throne with a chalice, drinking blood from the chalice. And obviously, they were able to break in, getting past all the, somehow miraculously getting past all the monsters within Castlevania. And they find the throne room door, and they start ramming the throne room door. Of course, this is when Dracula would stand up, and he says, "Very well. It looks like sheep have come to the lion to be slaughtered." Now, obviously, he would stand up, taking a drink from his chalice. And of course, he would start walking towards the door, finishing off the last bit of the blood inside the chalice. And the moment they break through the door, he holds his chalice up. He says, "What an odd coincidence. I'm just dying for a drop of blood." And of course, he would toss the chalice aside, and of course, all the soldiers gather around him, saying, "Can we do this?" And the other guards, of course, the higher knight says, "Of course we can. Steady, boys. We're gonna take this monster down." And he says, and this is when Dracula says, "All have tried, and all have failed. Let's hope that you can at least provide me with a monochrome of entertainment." Of course, one of the knights come charging at him. Of course, easily dodging this with relative ease. Using the claws on his fingers. He's using the claws at the end of his fingers. Slits the man's throat, draining him of all of his blood. He says, "Now that was what I needed." Of course, looking like a drained corpse, deprived of all of life. Looked like he had been decayed for almost about 50 years. He tossed the body aside. He says, Now I think I can... Now that the warm-up is done, it's time for you all to leave my home." Of course, this is when he makes his shadow whip, which is literally made out of his blood. Of course, it bursts out of his wrist. And of course, he starts, because remember, he still maintains his training in his use of a whip. And he is a master at it. So, therefore, he's just doing all sorts of things that you never thought you could ever do with a whip. And of course, he does it with relative ease, easily splitting a man in half with just a single crack of his shadow whip. He says, "Is this all that the Brotherhood has to offer me? I was expecting a party, and yet all I got was disappointment." Of course, they would continuously try and try again. But obviously, to no avail. They would just get slaughtered like lambs, like sheep getting led to the slaughter. And of course, he grabs the battering ram, and with just a simple flick of his hand, with a flick of the wrist, he pushes the battering ram and outside the other end of the castle with relative ease. Of course, he would climb and make his way to the door where he can see where the siege was happening. Of course, he opens the door. And this is when he looks down upon all the humans and he says, "So this is God's children. All they do are just basically come to fight me, to kill me, because they are too weak. Because they don't have no power of their own, so therefore they all have to band together to take me down. Well, I said it once and I'll say it again. What is a man but a miserable pile of secrets? Of course, this is when he throws down his goblet, throws down his chalice, and it hits the floor, obviously signaling all of the knights to look where that sound came from. And he says, all of you, if you do not wish to die, then I suggest you leave, or otherwise I will send my little pets after you and slaughter each and every one of you. And they say, look, we have your wife here, monster. He's the devil. And he says, you dare. Oh yeah, so if you guys don't know, I don't know if I said this. He did remarry. However, of course, since he's a vampire, he can't. Now, I know in the anime and in the original timeline it was possible, but like I said, I am combining both the original timeline and the Lord of Shadows timeline, along with the anime, together. So, but I'm taking the Lord of Shadows route, but I'm still integrating all the timelines together, so don't worry. But while still, of course, talking about Attack on Titan, of course, this man being one of the descendants of the Eldians. Now, keyword, I said one of the descendants of the Eldians. He says, we have your wife. We caught her practicing black magic. Practicing witchcraft. And for that she will die for her sins. She will die burning at the stake. And of course this enrages. He says, if you harm a hair on her head, I promise you I will read down a curse so unimaginable. I will unleash all of my devastation. Even Satan himself will be too afraid to challenge me. And of course, he does mean this. Because, well, it's actually true. Because, well, one, I'll get more into that later on in one of my later episodes. But of course, they do continue to not really taking his words at face value. They burn his wife. And of course, this drives him into a bloody rage. Of course, he says, you humans obviously do not care about your lives. Of course, this is when he starts casting his magic. He says, if you want to see what magic is, if you want to see what real power is, I'll show it to you. Of course, this is when he says, Dark Inferno. And of course, this is when you see like a big, gigantic ball of flaming magma. And he launches it. Of course, obviously launching multiple of Dark Infernos, obliterating most of the crusading knights. And he says, so this is the best that the Brotherhood has to offer me. Me, I, their most devoted warrior. And of course, one of the armored knights says, face me, monster. And of course, this is when he says, gladly. And of course, this is when he turns into this is when he transforms into a cloud of mist, obviously coming straight for the man with the golden armor, slamming him at rapid speeds. And this is when he says, out of all the people, of all the enemies I've ever encountered, I now see that humanity is the worst enemy that I've ever fought in my entire life. Of course, he says, "Get your hands off me, monster." And of course, this is when he says, and he says, "You know, I was like you once. A warrior, a champion of light." And this is when the knight says, "God is on my side, monster." And of course, this is when Dracula says, "And that will be your ruin." And of course, this is when they begin their clash. Obviously using his shadow whip. And obviously being at way faster speeds than a normal human can keep up with. And striking with such incredible strength. The knight's armor obviously not being able to handle this much force and this much power. This is when he shatters the man's helmet. And this is when he pulls out his cross. His swords have been destroyed. He pulls out the cross and starts saying the divine enchantment. And it's all in Latin, so do not ask me to say what he's saying in Latin. Like, there's only like a few words that I can pick out that I actually know and I can translate. So, obviously he starts saying Jehovah and then all that. And this is when Dracula looks at him. He says, once again, "I was like you once, but your God showed me a different path." And this is when he grabs the cross, and of course the cross is glowing a blue divine light. And of course he continues the incantation. And he says, "That's why the power of your God will not destroy me, because I am his chosen one." And of course this is when Dracula starts saying the incantation at faster than the man can keep up with. And this is when he basically reflects the incantation back at the man, but not just the man, but the entire crusading army is obliterated within an instant with a gigantic explosion of light, disintegrating and killing every single human being within that range. And of course, he grabs the destroyed and burnt cross, and he snaps the cross in half, and he says, "This world is broken." And of course, this is when he casts it to the ground. And this is when he heads back into Castlevania to sit back upon his throne. Of course, Castlevania, being almost self-aware, starts rebuilding itself from all the damage that the siege has done to it. Repairing all of its walls, everything, all the defenses. And of course, he heads back into his throne room to sit. And he says, and he gets another chalice. And of course, he fills it up with another. He fills the chalice up with more blood, filling it to the brim. Of course, this is when he sits back on his throne and he says the same question that he asked in the beginning. What is a man but a miserable pile of secrets? And of course, this is when he starts drinking. And this is when he throws down the chalice, shattering it instantly. Now, of course, You know what? I'm going to leave it off here, guys, because I can't really go any further with Dracula story until I get into Alucard's. And then I won't be able to do anything until we get all the characters' backstories. And don't worry, I did say I was going to explain to what all of his powers are going to be, including Alucard's. Now, obviously, I will be explaining more about the powers after I finish all the backstories and the origins. So, and then we'll actually get into the Attack on Titan world and the Attack on Titan storyline, while still sticking to the Castlevania timeline, and along with the Lord of Shadows and all that. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below, tell me what you guys thought about this video, and don't forget to put down in the comment section down below what was the video game that got you into video games. And yeah, and don't forget to subscribe, and do not forget to share this with all your friends on your social media platforms. But without further ado, guys, hope you guys have a great day. See you guys later. And peace out, my homies.